Is everybody in? Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin.
This is very real.
Fantastic.
This drug is dangerous.
Wrong.
You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Shut your little punk ass up.
But the more you hate me, the more you will learn.
Well, hello there, my friends. Welcome to the Autoflower podcast, where we chat with growers, breeders, and anyone really who is into autos or is relevant to the Autoflower community. I am your host, Chad Dulaney. I hope you are doing well. I want to give a shout out to MJ Auto Grower, our newest Patreon member. Welcome to the community. And of course, thank you very much for your support, my friend. On this episode, we are chatting with SoCalFarmer from Instagram. Him and I have been friends for a while. He's a really great dude with lots of knowledge. He grows organically outdoors here in Southern California. He is a big fan of KNF, or Korean natural farming, which, if you haven't heard of that, utilizes your local indigenous microorganisms, or IMO for short. And it also helps you save a ton of money. So we're going to chat a little about that, about growing, and end up chatting a little bit about RSO toward the end. But I want to encourage you, if you get a chance, to check out KNF, Korean Natural Farming, if you're into like organic gardening on a budget. It's fascinating stuff. I actually ended up kind of binge watching some YouTube videos for several hours after this conversation, and watched a lot of videos by the guy Chris Trump, which you're going to hear SoCalFarmer refer to us in the conversation. So really good stuff if you want to check some of that out. Just a friendly reminder to follow the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter if you aren't already. I will chat with you guys on the other side of the music. Please help me in welcoming to the Autoflower podcast, SoCalFarmer from Instagram, ladies and gentlemen. Or I'll just let you take it, man.
Okay, man. We talked about a little bit, just kind of getting into a bit of my story and how I, discovered and started to feel out cannabis. For me, it was, so I went to Iraq in 2004 with the Marine Corps. I was right below Baghdad, not during the initial invasion, but, right after in what's called OIF-2. It was supposed to be more of a humanitarian issue, but it was still just, an absolute kind of war zone over there, kind of fighting a ghost of an enemy. We went over there with an infantry unit. I was a combat engineer. One of our main jobs was to find, isolate, and dispose of large weapons caches. Giant. The first one we found was 10 500-pound bombs, blew it in place, and then pretty much from that day on, we found weapons every day.
Damn.
Biggest threat over there was not firefights. You kind of prayed for firefights because you knew how to engage. That's what you train in. Biggest threat was roadside bombs. RPGs, mortars, vehicle IEDs. So just random explosions, man. To this day, if it's an unexpected, loud, vibrational noise, my brain kind of has a little twitch to it.
I bet, because that's got to be really like that's got to cause a lot of anxiety being in an environment like that.
Yeah, safety issues, trust issues. Honestly, when I returned home, sleep issues were just horrendous. Anger issues. I took an IED blast in November 24th of 04. 2 155 artillery shells right outside the driver door of our unarmored Humvee. Thankfully, we all walked away, disabled our vehicle. I had a baseball-sized piece of shrapnel stop about 3 inches from my knee. Took some pin hair shrapnel in my face and my neck and ruptured my left eardrum, mild TBI. And then, coming home, man, just the anger that I had in my body, man, like first I would say the first 3 years are pretty intense. I drank a lot when I got home. Not every day, but I drank to basically create more anger, and it was not fun. And then, yeah, I started playing with cannabis a little bit. And back then, I mean, I was from the East Coast. You don't know what you're buying. You don't know what you're getting. No dispensary. I would smoke. It was kind of like this, probably heavy indica, kind of sedating. My mind would be active, but I'd just be kind of like drooling on myself.
Yeah.
Not very productive for daytime or functional use. But what I noticed was once that wore off, after that, like 90 minutes, 2 hours, the calm of my body, the clarity of my mind, I was just like, whoa, like how do I bypass that initial phase and get to that, what seemed to be really benefiting, my body and my anxiety and mainly in my sleep. Yeah. And then I ended up not using for a while. I wasn't sure if it was the right thing. I stopped drinking. And then 2012, I had a major hip surgery and left the hospital, never took another narcotic, and I made olive oil cookies and I titrated them into little pie pieces. And that's pretty much what I used for pain management for a 3-month. I was in bed for 8 weeks and 3-month, no weight bearing restriction. And that's what I used for pain management.
So how did you do it? You used olive oil with?
I mean, it was just raw, man. I just I put flour that I get from, I'd call a dispensary. They'd show up with an unmarked bag. They'd give it to me. I usually got some shake or some flour, and then I put it in a pot and I just simmer it for 2-3 hours with a little thermometer in there, trying not to let it boil. And then, I just have that oil on the shelf, and I'd make what I called oil cookies. I'd use like 17 or 15 tablespoons of oil in a batch of cookies. And then I'd titrate the cookies so that I could take like a small portion.
Oh, okay. And that worked out well for you?
It worked out well, but I find personally that edibles are really hard to titrate. So, I mean,
what does titrate mean?
Titrate is actually getting your dose accurate. So you're not getting too much or getting too little. Okay. So smoking is probably the most easy way, especially with vapes. You take a little dose, you know what it does. If you need more, you take another dose. With edibles, for me, it's really hard. I would take what I thought was a small dose, and then 2 or 3 hours later, I would have taken maybe a little too much. It was harder to use if I wasn't in bed from a surgery or sleeping or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with an edible, it's like you can, it could really take you by surprise. You can end up just, if you got something to do and you need to be active, and if you eat one, it could take over a little bit and put you down or even knock you out,
It can.
Yeah.
And that's when I started exploring the tinctures. I purchased a few from some dispensaries which I had okay results with. And I was like, man, how do I make this? So I started researching. I think my first tincture was out of vegetable glycerin because I didn't really want to do the alcohol route. And that worked well, but I didn't really like vegetable glycerin. Tends to dry out my mouth. It's just not, I don't really like the solution. And then I switched to MCT coconut oil a while ago, and that's just for me, it's a perfect medicine. I've learned to titrate my dropper. So 1 ml is about between 8 and 10 probably milligrams of THC and other cannabinoids in there.
Yeah.
Full plant spectrum, which I'm a huge, proponent of.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm excited. I've got a CBD Autoflower going right now, and it's in flower, and it's actually freaking huge, man. It's from that Gonzheim Genetics.
That's the Gonzheim Genetics. Yeah, I picked up.
Yeah, man, that thing. It's like I left for 3 weeks, and when I left, it was 2 weeks younger than every other plant, so it was really a lot smaller. And then I came home 3 weeks later, and it's like the second biggest plant in there. It's just freaking huge, man. Yeah, and it's just I didn't expect it to be so beautiful and to grow so well. I was pretty surprised, but I'm looking forward to processing that into medicine for like my family, for my wife, and there you go. Yeah.
This is the Fast Buds 20-to-1 that I grew out, and it's phenomenal, just CBD medicine.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that because it's got that full spectrum, because I've purchased CBD products even for my 13-year-old son because he has Tourette's as well. And so I purchased CBD products for him, and they kind of work. I want like some full spectrum stuff. I want the terpenes. I want everything in there and not just a CBD isolate, because I feel that it just does so much more. I know it does, actually, because I know for myself that like those more citrusy, fruity terpenes tend to just help me more for one reason or another. And so I want to get the full spectrum medicine in there, so I might have to pick your brain.
Does your pollen chuck help you a good bit then, since it has kind of that fruity profile?
It does. Yeah. It does. I wish I would have harvested it a bit earlier the last couple of times I've grown it, because I kind of let it go long. Okay. Just out of laziness, I think, and scheduling, and just didn't have the time really to harvest it quite yet. But yeah, if I can get it a little earlier so it's not as heavy, because it's a hybrid, it's obviously it's a hybrid, but it's got a lot of sativa in it, but there's some indica and stuff and some kush in there, so if you let it go too long, or if I vape too much, then it could get me really like stoned, feeling kind of heavy and a little tired, and stuff. But it does help me. It does help me a lot. I've noticed, for one reason or another, those citrusy, fruity terpenes just help. And others do too. Any cannabis will help me, but for some reason, there's just a golden nugget there with those fruity terpenes. It's really strange. So I'm looking forward to like getting, some CBD, like full spectrum, full plant like stuff into like my wife's hands and my 13-year-old's hands, and so that they can benefit from this without any THC.
Well, I'll send you. So I processed your pollen chuck into a tincture. I'll send you a little bottle of it. And I find that in really low dose, like I'm talking like an eighth of a dropper, even maybe a quarter of a dropper, super micro dose is really good during the day, can promote mood stability for me anyway. But I do find at night, if I take a half drop or even more, it does have that effect where it doesn't keep me from being relaxed and going to sleep. So I enjoy it. It's very versatile medicine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would say as well. Yeah. That's good to hear. It's good to hear an outside.
I'm growing some High Alpine Genetics Alpenglue. It's a purple CBD, hemp CBD auto. I picked up a 30-pack, man. I'll throw you their feminized seeds. I'll throw you a few seeds since you want to grow some for the family, and you can check those out too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, likewise. I'll send you some Agontimes, some CBD and CBG heavy strains as well.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So when you get back from Iraq and stuff, you start to notice that cannabis is helping you and stuff. So did you at one point just think, well, I'm just going to try to grow my own, or?
So I did. I mean, in the East Coast, I picked up like a little, I don't even know, like a reptile tent, put up some fluorescence in it, and started to grow my own. We were living in like a 350 square foot studio. It just wasn't the right time. The stigma was still there a good bit. It wasn't really pushing the recreational legal or even medical legal back on the East Coast. We moved out to California in 2008, and I was always fascinated with the plant. It's a gorgeous plant, the different diversity of what it can relieve, what it can provide. And then really, I used it in 2016 or 2012 for that hip surgery. But I was like, man, what am I getting? Where is it coming from? What's in it? And then 2016, I was like, man, I bet I could, like, how do I grow this outside? I got a yard space now. I wanted to do it kind of stealth. I didn't want to have a light cycle or a light. And I started researching autos. And I found Grower's Choice. There weren't many at that time, or I didn't know of many that could ship to the US. So I was kind of like, where do I go? So I got some Grower's Choice, Northern Lights, and Critical Perp. I grew those out. Meager, probably at best. I mean, kind of like my grows now. They provide me what I need, but they're definitely not giant plants. And but I was shocked at, hey, I can literally germinate this seed. It can go to this beautiful flower, and I can process and produce a medicine that can help me and other people. I mean, it blew my mind. And that was kind of the tip of the iceberg, man. I love using this plant, but growing this plant, sharing this plant, learning about this plant, learning about agriculture, learning about soil. It's life. It's a game changer, man.
Yeah, it's almost weird because the prohibition of it and the stigma of it, it's caused it to be in this arena to where we're just now kind of rediscovering it together. like they're mapping the genome, and there's just all kinds of new studies coming out as it becomes legal, and it's like it's like this flower blossoming, man, and we're just like, we're able to just watch this thing blossom in real time. It's kind of a cool time to be alive as far as the cannabis world goes, to be honest with you.
It is. I mean, there's so much happening in movement, and I mean, just the push for autos. When I was reading about them, that stigma. I love your podcast with Dan. I mean, I've learned a lot from him. I've grown a lot from Dan, his anvil. I got 3 of his forge growing right now. I grew his alf, and I produce seeds of alf. That's my continual kind of nighttime go-to. And I was a little hesitant. Like, what is the potency? Is it going to be, decent medicine? And I don't know that I could tell you the difference. I just know that somehow growing my plant, it provides what I need it.
Mm-hmm. That's
rad.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's sweet. So what's your grow look like? Like, what are you're growing mostly outdoors, or pretty much exclusively outdoors?
100%, man.
Yeah.
I have so I grew outdoor in a little 2x4 greenhouse. Could fit about 3 large plants, maybe 4 in there. We ended up taking that over for our vegetable seedlings. So just that's how we propagate and start all of our veggie seedlings. And last year I grew some outdoor photos that looked amazing. And then come mid-August, late August, man, about it in San Diego, the caterpillars are just unrelenting. I mean, regardless of how good and strong your soil is, regardless of how much BT you're using, I just found them to really nonstop.
Yeah.
So I decided I wanted to keep growing outside, but I could not do it open air. So I picked up a little 4x6 greenhouse on OfferUp. And that's been, I still get some issues in there. I'm still, there's some challenges with greenhouses in general that I need to problem solve, and always run into, like when we get these heat waves, spider mites, man, it's just like, how do you keep them out of there? Because it's a self-contained space. Then you get this condensation at night. So I have a little fan in there that sometimes the moisture can affect it if I have too many plants in there. But overall, I'm able to process and produce what I need, and I'm able to share it with others. So it's working out. I would say it's working out really well, and I get to learn every time I do a new grow.
That's awesome, man. So what are you in? Are you in like you're doing organic living soil, or?
I would say I'm doing organic living soil, or really what's around in the yard. I mean, I've started with Happy Frog. I've used Ocean Forest. I've mixed in perlite. I definitely mix in worm castings. I have a really nice worm farm that just produces tons of castings. We got 2 compost bins. One is active. I just stacked it today. I put in some of those indigenous microorganisms in there to kind of promote that, kind of like a Home bokashi.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I actually did that with the Jadam microbial solution. I preserved it with some oats. So it's this real, just kind of dormant microbial dry solution that I'll sprinkle on, kind of like bokashi.
Wow.
And then my other one is just full of old potting soil. And what I have now, I have a pile of IMO3, indigenous microorganism 3, sitting in my yard. It was about 120 degrees yesterday, probably about 115 this morning. It'll sit there for another 7 days, that with the same amount of soil. So I'll kind of repurpose that soil into an amendment that I can either top dress or use solely in a pot. Whatever's kind of left over in the yard, I end up trying to use.
So the idea of that is you're just kind of re-kickstarting the microbial activity, like in that used potting soil. Is that what's happening?
Exactly. So are you familiar with the IMO, indigenous microorganism process?
No, I have read about it once or twice, but no, I'm not familiar with it at all.
And I'm still learning all this, but Chris Trump, if you're interested in it, you probably heard his name. I mean, he is kind of a godfather.
Of course I have.
Chris Trump.
So Chris Trump, no relation to the president?
No relation. Very different ideology, it seems like.
Oh.
Well, for the most part. And he kind of shares that 80% of Korean natural farming is your indigenous microorganism. And what you're doing, you collect these I collected a few from my yard. There's canyon spaces. You put some, pretty dried rice, put it in either a basket or a box near the root base, and kind of put some leaf mold soil or some decaying leaves on top, and then leave it for 3 to 5 days. And you end up just collecting or cultivating these microbes in high density. You then put them in a state of dormancy with brown sugar. So now I just have a jar of brown sugar with these microbes that are kind of sleeping. And then I picked up some old spent grains from a local brewery for free. So it's a free resource. Dried them out for 5 days. and I'm going to use those microbes to inoculate essentially the spent grains. That's what that pile is with some oats. And then that'll get mixed in with that soil to re-amend it and just kind of kickstart it.
Oh, okay. So that is very similar. That's pretty much bokashi. It's like
well,
the same
so
idea.
bokashi is, as I understand it, and again, I'm learning every day, man.
Yeah.
Bokashi is anaerobic. Your anaerobic microorganisms, these, as I understand it, are more aerobic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
which one is which with that? One's oxygen and one's
anaerobic is lack of oxygen. Aerobic needs oxygen.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my understanding of it. So I'm starting to dabble in the microorganisms. I use them throughout the whole yard. And then his philosophy and ideology with the KNF is all the nutrients you need for your soil or your plant, for the most part, are in that organic matter. If I'm adding wood chips or compost, or like I just chop down some Mexican sage and I let it dry and then I'll use that as my mulch. Essentially, all the nutrients are in there, but my plant can't access them. And he says it's like getting a USB drive from Best Buy. Like you get it and there's all this plastic packaging, so it's there, but I can't use it until I remove it and break it down. So if I have these microbes that are going to break down this organic matter and make it accessible and plant available, then we're good to go. So.
Oh, okay. Man, that's so cool. Yeah, I was thinking about like that whole process when I was in Alabama, because my dad lives like out in the woods. He's on an acre, but he's like, a lot of his acre is woods. And so I'm just sitting there and my boys and I would go walk down. There's a creek down there. But it's so cool, man, because, I'm walking down and there's just, compared to, as you know, we're in Southern California. I mean, you go to the South and there's just like, it's just thick woods.
Lush,
there's just
man,
plant life. Yeah, there's plant life just everywhere. And it's just all natural. There's so much that us humans have to go and mow out, strips for highways and roads and power lines. It's just so thick, and it's amazing, man. And it's like, and it's just so different from I've been born and raised here in Southern California, where it's more like, I live in the Inland Valley, where it's more deserty type, and not a whole lot of trees and plant life and stuff. But I was just thinking, it's fall. The rain comes, the wind comes, and these leaves are falling down, and they're just, getting down and falling. And you look down and there's all these decaying leaves, and there's animal poop, and there's bird poop, and there's urine, and that's got like nitrogen. And it's just this system, man, this living soil, like it's just like nature's way of providing a living soil, how all that stuff composts down and becomes food for all these trees and all this plant life. It's just so fascinating, dude. So I'm really interested in this stuff that you're talking about with microbes and soil, and I want to learn more about it. I'm just not sure what avenue I want to go down. Like you had mentioned earlier, like KNF, there's that. Yep. I almost took this course, this Dr. Elaine's.
Elaine Ingham.
Yes, I was considering taking her course.
That's on my next list of courses to take for sure.
Is it the soil food web one? Yeah. So I was thinking about, but that's where I want to go with my learning and my knowledge, and what knowledge I want to obtain, and then turn around and share. So I'm just fascinated by it all. Well, let's talk about like you had mentioned like KNF and this idea. So that is like kind of KNF, the idea, right? Is going and getting some of your local native like microbes.
Yep. That's one of the primary foundational components of KNF is the indigenous microorganism, or the IMO. And that's the collection in the rice box. You preserve them with the brown sugar. And then you can even use them from that form. Like I took a little hand scooping and put it into my worm tea the other day, and just the microbial activity, the foaming was just within 12 hours. I mean, it was off the charts.
Wow.
So you can use it in that kind of super layman's term, or you can go the next step and do the third process with either, a lot of people use like rice hulls or whatever your byproduct or your free resource is. So the indigenous microorganisms are where it's at. And that directly connects to Dr. Elaine Ingham's soil food web. You're talking about active microbes, decomposing material, making plant readily minerals available and nutrients available to plants. So it's kind of a win-win. And Chris Trump, who's kind of that godfather, he took a 800 acre macadamia nut farm in Hawaii and went full Korean natural farming and basically saved his farm, and actually outcompeted the macadamia nut industry. And people were just like, what are you doing? So it's pretty impressive. And then he's also studied. He took Dr. Lane Ingham's class, and there's a strong connection between the two.
Oh, is there? Interesting.
Very strong. Yeah, it's kind of just very strong.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to start learning more about it, man. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you can cultivate in your yard. I mean, the JetAm microbial solution. So JetAm, are you familiar with JetAm and K&F? They're kind of two similar.
K&F a little bit, yeah, but.
So, and as I understand it, Master Cho is the father of the son who produced JetAm. And JetAm is like super low cost, use what you have, all mostly anaerobic. Like I have kelp. I picked up a bucket of kelp. I literally put water on it, and it's been sitting in a bucket for 3 months. And I use that at a 20-to-1 rate for fertilizer or whatever.
Kelp, where did you get kelp? From the beach?
Oh, yeah. Dude, it's
you know what, man? That's so funny you say that, because when we were in San Clemente a few weeks back, or like a month back, I was thinking about taking some kelp home.
Dude,
but I was like, I don't know if this is the right stuff.
I use it three ways.
Yeah, I thought I saw a picture on your Instagram where you did you post something about that or something where you had grabbed kelp?
Yep.
It
so
was
kelp,
okay. I didn't know if that was just in my head.
You can top dress it and just let it decompose right there with okay results. I mean, it takes a while to decompose. You can make one of the other K&F inputs called fermented plant juice. And really that's putting one part kelp, 1 part brown sugar in a jar, letting it ferment and sit and take out through osmotic pressure, take out all the liquids and all the minerals and juice from that kelp into a liquid form. So you basically have a kelp extract. I love that. I think that's primo.
Wow.
But then if you want to know like a hands-off kelp process, fill a 5-gallon bucket 3/4 of a way with kelp, fill it with water, put a little bit of decomposing, either worm castings, compost, or decomposing leaves in there, and let it sit for 3 months, and you have a great natural amendment that you just created for yourself.
Wow. And so what is the benefit of that to the plants? Is it just a benefit to the soil?
So I would say, yeah, I mean, my focus is the soil. I look at my plants, they're gorgeous, but I focus on what can I give to the soil. Kelp is known to grow at a rate of 2 to 3 feet a day. So you're basically taking that property, maybe some of those enzymes, some of those hormones, and you're removing them and then using them. The ocean and seawater and kelp also have over 82 different minerals. So in this JetAm book, he's not adding any minerals to he has a huge farm. He's just adding seawater, adding kelp extract and things like that. So I just use it to kind of add some minerals back to my already living soil, to my garden, and, go with it.
Man, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And it's free, man. So it's like, why not? Like, my girls get to see it. They love watching it. And it's
like for I guess especially for like you and I, or anyone who lives near, the coast, anywhere in the world, really. It's just, kelp and seaweed is just, it's something that hits my ankles,
wraps around your surfboard.
I'm going to say like hundreds of times a year, literally. I'm at the beach. I'm at the ocean so much, know. So it's just like, it's always there, and it's like, wow, what a resource. And and it's just
feed too, man. You can mix it in with your foliar spray, just to kind of, add some to your foliar feed, kind of cover the exterior with active microbes, or add some of those minerals to the foliar application. It's great.
Man, that's cool. Yeah. So you mentioned that like you're certified in like K&F farming, or what?
I am not at all.
You're not?
No, it's something I'm passionate about. The next class that Chris Trump offers, I plan to take that. It's a pretty intensive 40-hour class. He's in Idaho now. It is something I want to get certified in, but with the pandemic, there was a little bit of a stop on it. I have several books. His YouTube channel and some of his videos are phenomenal. He believes in access to part of the Korean natural method is freely sharing of information. How do we share this so we can keep our soil healthy? We are only as healthy as our soil, so why not, share this information?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think people realize how much of an issue that is. And I say that because I didn't until recently in my life. A few years ago, I couldn't give a shit about soil. I wouldn't even know what you were talking about, really. It just dirt to me, but now that as I've gotten to growing and, into plant life and soil life and stuff like that, it kind of opened my eyes to the damage that we're doing to our earth. Not to sound like a hippie or anything, but I mean, I kind of am though at heart, I guess.
I was like, hold on.
but it is, man. It's like it's damaging to our earth, and then all the other stuff that we do with the pollution and the toxicity. It's like, you know, you add all of these different elements together, and it just creates this whole entourage of damage that we're doing. But our soil seems to be one of the big aspects in general across the world, because we have just gone so in our technology and in our you know, capitalism and trying, and nothing wrong with that, but I mean in our pursuit to produce quickly and efficiently, we've come up with different technologies and methods and synthetics and different stuff and weed killers and bug sprays and fungicides, and we end up over, you know, 100 years or however long it's been, 50 years or whatever, we end up damaging the soil on our earth.
Well,
you
it's
know?
depleted. I mean, it's completely depleted and void of microbial activity, so that even if there is organic matter available to these plants and these farms, now your plants are stuck on the bottle. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to change anyone's philosophy, but that's just mine. It's like, if I'm going to have an outdoor garden, if I'm going to teach my girls, if I'm going to grow cannabis, I want to do it in a way that's sustainable. I'm going to do it in a way that I can produce my own seeds, hopefully, preserve my own soil, amend my own soil, and pass that on to students. So that maybe they don't change their way, but they at least have the knowledge of, oh, what are the implications of this large chemical farming practice?
Yeah.
And that's where my heart lies.
Yeah, yeah, I could relate with that, because I'm kind of like interested in learning how to become more self-sufficient. I always have been in everything I do. I've never been one to take my car to the mechanic unless I absolutely have to. I'm just one of those people who is like, well, if another human can do it, why can't I? I mean, we have, you know, the same type of makeup. You know what I mean? Like, I have a brain, you have a brain. I just like to learn stuff on my own and do it on my own. I just like to be self-sufficient, to save money, and to just, you know, it's totally off topic, but I think like as a species, man, like we have come to this point to where we have flipped the role, and we're coming into this new world of like, you know, for thousands and thousands of years, we were like hunter gatherers, and we're, you know, just doing this stuff. So we have all this leftover psychological stuff in our brains, but our lifestyle doesn't support our brains. You know, like we have all this anxiety and stuff because a lot of times we get bored and we don't know what to do with our time. But it's because we're just so messed up, man, in my opinion, and flip backwards to where it's like we've created this world and this culture to where, you know, just sitting alone or something is just considered bored and a waste of time. We've created this world where, you know, we want everything now quickly and we want it done for us. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there is benefit to that. But when you get so extreme to where you rely on that, if you are relying on that to live, and I mean for your life, like right now, you and I mean, for me, I rely on the food that's processed and sent out to the grocery stores. Now, this pandemic has showed us that like we're not really as safe as a lot of people maybe thought we were, and things can change in the snap of a finger, you know. And what happens when things like that get cut off? And so I'm not like this doomsday guy or a prepper or anything like that, but I do, in a sense, like to stay balanced and prepared. And I like to, you know, so the stuff that you're talking about, like being self-sufficient, I'm just into that in general. You know, how can I provide my own food? And because for me, I've noticed that when I'm doing that way of life, where I'm not doing life, where I'm just always busy with technology and too busy to do anything with my hands and with my mind and with other people like that we used to do thousands, hundreds of years ago. You know, like we have dishwashers, you know, so we take away all of the stuff that we're used to doing because it could be done for us so that we can go do other stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? And I do, man. It could be a trap. It could be a trap, in my opinion. And so I like the idea of just being self-sufficient, you know, using, like, I really want to start my own worm farm. And, you know, I think I'm just going to pull the trigger and do it because
Dude, I've had worms living for in a worm bin. I mean, I think I got one from, I think if you were a resident in San Diego, you could go get one for like a minimal cost. So I picked one up. It's that tote one where you can stack them. You can use Rubbermaid bins. I mean, my worms have been living for 4 years now. Make sure they're in the shade. Make sure you keep them moist. Make sure you feed them. It's great.
Yeah. And because, we have a lot of food waste in my house. We try to eat somewhat healthy. I'm not going to say that we're healthy eaters, but my wife is definitely on board with that and kind of takes the bull by the horns on that. She's really good with all that. But, we have a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, a lot of, broccoli stalks being cut off and thrown in the trash, banana peels, just all kinds of stuff, man, that we throw away. And which, I mean, that's okay. But I would like to take that and utilize that as a resource to feed my garden. And I don't have to spend money elsewhere. And it gives me something to do that gives me a sense of purpose and satisfaction. And it teaches me to be self-reliant just in case I did need to go down that avenue of growing my own food or something like that in the future. That's kind of my take on it, I guess.
And I wish we could be sufficient to really provide to our family everything that we need. But I would say at least one meal a day, we're eating one, if not two portions of something when we're in season. Like right now, we had butternut squash go crazy this year. We probably had 15 of them off one plant. Our green beans always go crazy. I mean, we have bags of green beans. Those are kind of our go-to. Our broccolis do really well. Our carrots do really well. So we would know how to start that, but it is hard. And having a family of four and doing that, I think that's my wife and I's next goal is how do we really get to that production level? So we're preserving maybe a little more vegetables and producing a little more vegetables and things like that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Are you like in your vegetable area, are you producing enough vegetables just to sustain you guys in the vegetables, or are you still buying veggies at the store as well?
I mean, we have like a local kind of support that local farming, like a local box that we get delivered. But yeah, I mean, I would say when we're in that peak of that season, there's always that changeover when you go from summer to fall garden and then fall to spring and spring to summer, where you're a little more reliant on those resources. But in the peak of the season, every dinner meal, we have one, if not two portions of some form of vegetable, sweet potato, carrot, broccoli, for our family. So it's great.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. So I'm interested in your greenhouse too, because I'm always considering everything.
Dude, greenhouse
I'm
is
such a chameleon
out here, man.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Awesome.
But what do you think where I live? Because it gets up to like 110.
Hot AF where you live, right?
Yeah, it's like 115 sometimes on a really hot heat wave day. But I mean, it's always through the summer, steadily. It's always like at least 100 here.
I think with the right plants, you're not going to have a problem with the right plants, with circulation, and with a mulch. I mean, I think you really need to make sure you harness that either cover crop or mulch or combination of both real heavy to keep your moisture in, because that's where your plants are going to get hurt. Is you're going to lose your living soil if you're using it. Your plants are going to miss out on some of that water because it does get hot in there. But I mean, it does get 100 degrees on here now. We get those weeks. And my plants, they just pray during that time, and they just sit there and like, sun.
Really?
But I think with the right plant, I don't think you'd have a problem. Condensation at night can be tough. Make sure you limit your amount of plants. I know, like right now, I have everything I do is multi-pot pretty much. I have 2 20 gallons in there, one with 3 plants in it, one with 4. I have a lot of plants in there right now, and I think just through that process of them letting off some of that moisture, also it contributes to the greenhouse being a little too humid sometimes. So I do find that limiting my plants during those times where it's already moisture in the air is really important to not be susceptible to mold or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you're pretty dry out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's weird. Yeah. But at night, the humidity will skyrocket. During the day, it'll be like 30% humidity. And then at night, I mean, it could, get up to, 75. I mean, it just, depends with that condensation. This time of year, I think, it's so hot during the day, and then it cools down at night, and in the morning there's, condensation and stuff.
So yeah, I have a vent on top. I leave that vent pretty much open, and then I have a small fan in there. I think if I had a bigger box fan, it would probably help support the fluctuation a little bit more in there.
Yeah. Yeah, because even like for the summer, it's like I wouldn't really need a greenhouse for warmth. It's like I would want it to keep all the bugs and critters away.
Well, why not a screen house, man? Like I'd go to Home Depot. You can get 2 of those greenhouse tops, so that way you're still harnessing the sun and you're protecting it from any condensation laying on your plants. And then just do like an outline and just screen it. I mean, that's really what it sounds like, would be beneficial for you.
Kind of like a bigger version of because I have like this tiny little screen house thing I built, but maybe a bigger version.
You need like
a
walk-in, man. Yeah, like a walk-in with a little cover on top.
Yeah, but during the winter, it would probably be, or the fall and the early spring, it would probably be beneficial to have the sides covered though. What do you do? Do you just have screen?
So I have my door wide open. I'm looking at it right now. It has one of those, the dog screens that have the magnets on it that just so I have one of those, right? I kind of use some adhesive to put that on the door. So when I walk in, it just closes. Not that I can get in there, but I can kind of peek into water. When I come out, it closes. And then in the vent on top, I just took some screening and just put it up right there. So I still will get, I killed a moth in there this morning. I noticed I was having some little bites on the leaves of my anvil. I was like, man, where are you? And I knew it wasn't a grasshopper, and I found the moth, and then I got rid of him. So I'll get a little kind of infestation of a couple caterpillars. I kind of rub the back of the leaves, but it'll be gone in a day or two.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
nothing like outside.
Oh man, those bastard caterpillars. It's that tobacco budworm moth. That's the one
and the cabbage looper, man. It's the little white or yellow one, butterfly. That cabbage looper is also a culprit. Yeah.
Do those dig into your buds too?
As my understanding, they do. Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. Those are the ones I don't like, man. The ones that'll rot your colas.
Everything's looking all good, and then all of a sudden you're like, hold on, that little leaf there is turning a little too yellow and brown. And you pull it out, and you're like, serious? And you just break it.
It starts falling apart, and it's all brown in there. Oh, it sucks. Yeah,
but greenhouse year-round, out in San Diego or Southern California or someplace that it's pretty dry, greenhouse year-round. To be able to grow autos, I pop anywhere from 2 to 6 seeds every 30 or 40 days, and I just am rotating them in and out. Winter, I end up producing some seeds. Like I have a buddy on Instagram who's going to send me some gem Mandalorian genetics, and I'm going to probably produce some seeds from that, which I'm pretty excited about to have a CBG cultivar in the lineup. But cool. I love the greenhouse. Actually, I'm going to create a little one out of an old crib we have. Just take the 2 crib sides and make a little A-frame.
Oh yeah.
Put some. I have 1 sheet of greenhouse plastic that's been in my shed for 4 years. I'm just going to put it across the top, and then just screen it, and I'll just have 2 plants in there.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So getting back to like the soil stuff and that type of stuff. What were you telling me that you had a certificate in? I thought you were like you had a certificate.
Oh, so I have a teaching credential. I have my special ed teaching credential already, but I just went through and got my CTE. It's in California's Career Technical Education, Agriculture and Natural Resources credential. So that allows me to really bring agriculture, farming, sustainability into the classroom and have a credential to back it up. So it means I can actually make, not, hey, come get paid $15 an hour and be my green space teacher. It means I can actually turn, kind of align and find some opportunities to build this as a opportunity. And the school I'm at is really excited about bringing in an outdoor space. I've already got the go to have a spring semester, even if we're online. They want me to get together a package so I can send everybody home a small home garden, and we can do virtual learning, and they can kind of document their process. So even though it's small scale, it's still something. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's so cool. My first graders are getting ready to do a little mini version of that. They're learning about photosynthesis and stuff right now. It's really cool. I love it, man. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're interested in the kind of the K&F, or an easy place to start, man, if you haven't done fermented plant, I think you did do a fermented plant, right?
I did. I tried it. I don't know if I did it right or not. I fed it to my plants, and yeah, you can do the soil drench and the foliar, but make sure one of the biggest thing is making sure you're combining it. You really never use it individually. So
You're going to combine it if you have Oriental herbal nutrients, which you might not, which is fine. But vinegar especially kind of acts as a buffer, so it's not just a sticky product that you're putting on there. So you can do a 1-to-1. So 1 part vinegar, 1 part FPJ. You're looking at about 1 to 500 per gallon per both. And you can water in and soil drench both of those.
Yeah, because I was reading when I had tried it, I had just finished reading like an article or something on Korean natural farming, and it was talking about like go and get some plants like out of your yard.
Yep.
So I had went out, and there's this popular, it almost looks like a succulent type of weed that grows here, and it's actually a medicinal plant. Come to find out. Yeah. So what I did is I said, well, shoot, I'll use that. So I had read go out in the morning, harvest your material in the morning because of, I don't remember, chlorophyll or some type of, and there's it's when the plant is most something or other. It
hasn't really switched in that photosynthetic mode yet. So it's
is that
still,
what it is?
Producing those root shoots and tips, and I think the plant enzymes and hormones are at the highest at that point.
That's sparking my memory, something like that. Yeah, so I did that, and I did everything it said and went through the process, and I fed it to I didn't feed it to my cannabis. I think I actually ended up feeding it to just some of my other plants just to test it out. And so I mean, it didn't kill them, and I can't tell if it did anything for them. I only did it once. It was just a test, but I'm a lot more interested in it now. So
yeah, man.
I'm just interested in. I like the idea of water only. I don't know why, I just do. It's just my cup of tea, I think.
Simplicity, man. I don't know if it's like the simplicity behind it. There's something about it.
I think I'm fascinated too. I think I have a personal fascination with the soil biology and the plant biology too. I'm always just looking up stuff on plant cells and how they're different than human cells, and I like grazing it. Like I like grazing kind of the facts about the biology, and then when something catches my attention, I'll kind of deep dive into that for a minute.
Very cool.
But but I always end up pulling back out and then going over here, and I'm always changing my mind. And
just one good resource if you're into that. Yeah, it's a really cool book about what you're sharing about the soil and plant biology.
The Regenerative Grower's Guide to Garden Amendments. Just so the listeners know what you're showing me.
By Nigel Palmer.
Okay.
And it's a cool book because the first half is all about how natural farming is effective for your yard, what's going on, even on a pretty biological level. Like it's pretty, there's some detail in there. And then the whole second half is all about how to make and use these amendments. And what I was finding with Korean natural farming, there was all these YouTube clips and websites and all this, but I really like having like a hard copy I can like write in, that I can use as a resource. So I just got it and I've started reading into it. But what I've read and what I've used it for, it's really a pretty decent resource for the price to have a book on hand.
So I know, let's chat a little bit to kind of change the subject, because I've also had like a new rekindled interest in the concentrated cannabis oil, or what we refer to as Rick Simpson oil.
Yep.
So you know how to make that and stuff, from what I understand. Yeah, you make it?
I do make it. I mean, I don't know if I make it well. I mean, it's effective. It seems to work. I've made several batches. I made a lot, actually. So my brother-in-law 4 years ago had a glioblastoma brain tumor. And I literally just made it, gave it to them, didn't understand protocol, usage, anything, and just said, here, in case you need it. He passed away, but I wish that I knew more. If I knew what I knew now, I'll be like, look, dude, like, you've been given, I don't know if it will help you, but I believe it can. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think it's a silver bullet for everybody.
Right.
However, I think in combination, it's highly effective.
Yeah.
We have a friend who has breast cancer who I'm kind of acting as a caretaker right now. It's reoccurring. It's terminal. It's metastasized to the rest of the body. Every research article my wife and I looked up said for the 3 main types of breast cancer, in combination with chemo and cannabis oil, there's a 25% increase in effectiveness. So it's like, why not, right?
Yeah.
So I started with a rice cooker. I still prefer it, actually. I just do my rinse. I take my flour, I rinse it. I use a wooden spatula and a big old, glass bowl. I kind of make sure that all my flowers getting drenched in alcohol. I use Extractahol right now. It's 200% grain.
Okay, so hold on. Let me slow you down a minute there, if you don't
Sorry.
mind. That's
Yeah.
no, that's okay. I personally have just got these little things. So, so when you put it in this bowl and you're putting alcohol in it, are you is this like a freshly harvested plant? Is this dried and cured? Does it matter?
So as I understand it, you want it to be as dry as possible so that it can strip off all the resin possible. Some
Okay.
people will freeze it. I would say it's definitely going to be cured. If it's dried, it's going to be somewhat cured even. You know, you definitely don't want to take a fresh plant and do this.
Okay.
So you definitely want your plant to be as dry as possible. Leave the lid off, put it in a paper bag for a week or two, whatever you do to really get it dried out. And then once you have that dry plant matter, however much it might be, you put it in your in a bowl or vessel of some sort, kind of not even cover it, but just put in some alcohol. I use 200 grain.
Mm-hmm.
Put in enough so that when you use a wooden spatula and are agitating and stirring it, it's all saturated. I like to let mine sit for 10, 15 minutes, kind of agitate again. And then I have another bowl with like a strainer, like a pasta strainer, like a thin, like screen pasta strainer,
Mm-hmm.
and a handkerchief on the top. And then I do my first pour and I pour that through. So now I have basically the infused alcohol. It's stripped off the resin because it's alcohol or fat soluble, the resin glands. We stripped it off into the alcohol, and then I do a small second rinse. I'll pour a little bit of grain in there, do another rinse on that flour, pour it through, and then I only do two rinses.
Where do you get this alcohol? Where can somebody pick this up?
At Extractahol, they're on Instagram. They're right in Oceanside, California, I believe. They produce medicinal grade organic grain alcohol, 190, 200 proof.
Wow.
I've dealt with them directly. They're phenomenal to work with. Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
And here's what I would say. I want to say it's $100 for a gallon or something like that. It's not super cheap, but not going to break the bank.
Yeah.
The two differences that might help determine how you do this are if you use a rice cooker, you basically lose all your solvent to the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up picking up a still, like $100 on Amazon, like a water still, because now I reclaim like 95% of my solvent. So if I put that infused or that grain alcohol that now has this nice green solution in my still, I collect back a lot of that alcohol. I do like to finish mine in the rice cooker. I just feel like I have a little more control over it. I can see it. Whereas in the still with the closed environment, I feel like they get a little hot towards the end and can burn it a little bit. So I like to take it out, pour the little bit of it's already like diluted RSO or FICO into the rice cooker and then really get that off. And then you can even take that rice cooker tray and put it in the oven for 220 for like 30 minutes or an hour until you see all the bubbling stop. Once you see that bubbling stop, you're good to go. I take syringes while it's still warm and liquefied and just slurp it up straight in the syringe. 1 gram of RSO is also equivalent to 1 ml or what are those plungers?
Yeah, is it 10 maybe?
Maybe it is 1 ml. I'll have to get back to you on it. My mind is
I don't know. And I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, so 1 gram of RSO is about 30 rice grains, 35 rice grains. And then you just start the process, man. And I really started exploring suppository. And this sounds crazy, bro, but I listened to the Cannabis Health Radio. A lot of people are going to have very intense effects from RSO. I mean, I took a rice grain when I made it, every time I make it. And man, it is not something I want to take every night. Like, it doesn't help me sleep great. It takes my pain away in a heartbeat, man. Like, my body is like feeling great, but it makes my mind a little too active.
Does it? Yeah.
Just because I don't have a tolerance for it.
I see. Yeah.
So I explored this suppository. I was like, well, I took 1 grain last night. It was a pretty busy night active. I'm going to take a 2 grain suppository in the morning and see how it affects me. So double the dose.
Yeah.
And I was in the yard doing yard work all day, noticed minimal, if any, psychoactive effect. Apparently it bypasses the metabolism to the liver, so it doesn't go to the brain.
Yeah.
So right now, our friend who's on that, she's taking 3 10-grain suppositories a day and 1 rice grain at night to keep the oral consumption. So that's kind of her protocol at the moment.
Yeah, you know what? where was I? There was like this huge like article somewhere with a medical doctor, and I don't remember where it was, and it was a few years ago, but I was reading about using RSO in a suppository, especially for certain cancers.
Yep.
Because you can, and even they were even going as far as like saying like, shove it up there a certain amount.
Basically one knuckle. Like if you go beyond
that's
one
what they were
knuckle,
saying.
you're going to end up having it absorbed into,
Right.
and it will get metabolized to the liver, and you're going to be on for a ride, man.
Right. So yeah, that's the idea, right? So if you shove it up your butt basically, and you don't go too far, your body, and that's a really good place to absorb any type of medicine.
Yep.
Really, it's just the way it is. But yeah, it'll bypass your liver so that you don't end up getting all totally rocked by it.
Yeah.
So
it's
she
basically takes these twice a day. I mean, she has 2 kids. She's running a family. She can't take an oral dose during the day. So it's been really effective for her.
That's cool.
We don't know. I mean, the hard thing is what is working, what isn't. What we do know is with her anyway, the spread of the cancer, at least everything but her liver, has stopped or regressed. So is it the chemo? Is it the cannabis? We don't know. But at this point, we're just trying to work like synergistically.
Yeah. I mean, it could just be all of it. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I felt too about, I was out at my dad's and I'm having back problems right now. And he had this CBD rub, and he kept telling me, try that CBD rub. And I'm just like, that's not going to work, and man, I rubbed that stuff on my back, and I don't know if it was the CBD or the lemongrass that was in it or whatever other menthol type stuff was in there, but all I know, man, is that stuff like really relieved my back pain.
Oh, topicals are phenomenal, man. I make topicals too. If you're not, you should. They're simple. I take the beeswax from my hive and we make homegrown topicals. And
oh, do you?
There are many people who are not cannabis advocates, not cannabis proponents, and I've shared that topical, and they're like what's that? Like same thing, mild back pain, and they're like, man, this has helped me move again. So
yeah, I was pretty shocked. I was like, how is that working like that? Like I almost didn't use it because I was just already convinced that it wouldn't really help because I'm having some pretty severe back pain. Actually, I gotta go get an X-ray today.
I wouldn't wish that on anybody, bro. I've been in that position, and that's.
Have you? You know what, man? Yeah. I've never had back problems, but man, I'm having some really bad ones now, and it's not fun. It's debilitating, man. It's crippling almost. It's hurting my entire torso. If I'm honest with you, it's crazy, dude. So I ended up calling my doctor, and he's like, "Let's get you in for an X-ray and get it checked out and see what's going on." So
man, we'll take care of that. Rest and ice and RSO. I found RSO for back pain can be helpful when you're sleeping in the right position. But I have also found the opposite, that the RSO sometimes relaxes me so much that I might sleep in a position I might not otherwise sleep in.
And pay for it.
And then it tweaks me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Right on, man.
Does that answer anything about the RSO, man? I mean, that's my limited understanding. Yeah. It seems effective. I've used it. It works. I passed it on. It works. I have a family friend who my tincture was not effective for him for sleep or pain. He has back pain. And I passed on RSO infused coconut oil, and that's the only thing that he can use to be effective for him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to make, I'm interested in it because I want to make I want to get more out of the plant, I guess, because I make infused coconut oil just with the flower, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. It's not, that RSO is really stripping everything out of that plant, that alcohol.
And it preserves great too. I mean, if you're looking for like super shelf stable and like to take a lot of flour that you might not use, it preserves great. I mean, throw that grease in the fridge and you don't have to worry about it. Whereas sometimes I do notice the coconut oil can kind of get that kind of acid, it can start to go a little rancid. Not that I think it's going to hurt you, but it can get that flavor.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if you have a thing of RSO, it's like you can take that and use that as a base point for, you can eat it, you can make suppositories, you can, you can integrate it into coconut oil, you can, make butter with it. You can just start doing all kinds of stuff with it,
Yeah. And I should share, if anyone's listening and they're interested in the suppository, there are many ways you can do it. You can make a cocoa butter kind of mold. To me, that was a little bit long of a process. It also didn't put the process in the patient's hand. Like, I wanted her to be able to do it when she needed it.
Yeah.
So we've found that using vegetarian or vegan gel caps, fill a little bit with coconut oil, squirt in your 10 grains or your grain or whatever, and then just keep the gel caps on hand, and you can use them directly as a suppository. They break down fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I read too somewhere about like, they called it a bio bomb is what they called it, but they were mixing, RSO, coconut oil, and sunflower lecithin or lecithin. How do you pronounce that?
Lecithin, I think.
Is that what it is? Yeah, they were using those three and creating this, what they would call a bio bomb, because it was just so biologically available to your body, you know, especially as a suppository. It just really gets it in there. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. You can follow SoCalFarmer on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Remember to love your plants and to love one another. See ya.
Nicotine, alcohol, good drugs. Coincidentally, tax drugs. Ooh, how does this fucking work?
The deadly narcotic. The dried leaves and berries are ground up and made into cigarettes by a simple hand machine. The deadly narcotic is thus quickly and easily prepared for its market. The sale of marijuana is even more difficult to detect and halt than the traffic in drugs such as opium, morphine, and heroin.
Mr. Nixon, while you've been in Vietnam, it's rumored that you smoked marijuana.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Lick, lick, lick my balls! Yeah, say that all the time.
What on God's green earth were you thinking?
Somebody's asking how long will prejudice blind the visions of men?